You're laughing. I got mentally scarred by an anime pig and you're laughing. Hey, it's Ali. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. And today I'm tearing apart your childhood favorite movie. Well, probably your childhood favorite movie if you are a weeb. We're talking about Spirited Away today. One of the most beloved Studio Ghibli movies, probably one of the most iconic, probably after Totoro, and is very much known for being beautiful with great storytelling and a cozy staple in every weeb's household. Well, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're just wrong. You're wrong about this movie. And honestly, a good portion of all Studio Ghibli films, you know, they're not beautiful. They're terrifying. If at any time you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe because I make videos like this all the time. And comment down below if you want this to become a series. I'm going to do this kind of like debunking your childhood Studio Ghibli films and pretty much any other film that we all saw as like this great, beautiful masterpiece. But in reality, I don't think it is. Kinda. You know, let me know down in the comments below. Anyway, let's jump into it. The year was 2007. Okay, no one cares. As a tender little kid, I was exposed to anime really early in life. My cousin had the Dragon Ball Z games that I used to play all the time when I go over to the house, and my best friend Nalo got me into like the rest of anime with Naruto, and of course from there the rest was history. Now, as crazy as this would be today, back in the day in suburbia, it was normal for the neighborhood kids to all be friends with each other and to hang out with each other and go to interesting places. This included other people's houses, even if your parents didn't really know them that well. Yeah, I know, early 2000s suburbia was insane. So that led me, when I told the older kids in my neighborhood about that I liked anime, they were really excited because they also liked anime, and they invited me to go to somebody's house, again a random kid's house, and watch Spirited Away in a basement with them. Now these kids were about like in their teenage years. They were in high school at the time, and I was very much so in elementary school. Early 2000s suburbia was insane, and in that dark, dank basement with kids I barely knew, we watched Spirited Away. Well, I watched about maybe 30 minutes of it, and then I screamed and cried and ran home, once seeing the pig scene, and then the second time seeing No Face for the first time. Looking back at those scenes, I realized what had actually scared me about them was this pure sense of overwhelming, fast-paced panic and helplessness. So while Studio Ghibli was taking, you know, the American weebs by storm and cementing itself in becoming one of the best known like franchises just ever, my little young self was like, I am never, ever again going to watch a Studio Ghibli film. Oh, thank you, son. Thank you for participating. Should I just be at this angle? I might have to be at this angle. But I was like, never, ever again. I'm never, ever going to watch another Studio Ghibli film ever again. And I didn't. And I stayed far away from any of that shit. I watched all my other, you know, Shonen Jump animes, and I stayed far away from Studio Ghibli until about the 5th grade, when I was walking in the hallway, like at the beginning of the school year, and I saw one of these kids had like a get to know me poster. Here are the movies that I like and yada yada. And it was Spirited Away was this kid's favorite movie. And I remember like stopping in my tracks and being like super like I thought I'd never see you again. Like genuinely, because you compartmentalize, you lock that shit away, you don't remember it. You know, it was like a little bit of like, you know, when the kid sees a scary movie for the first time and they like they run away scared and they never want to see that shit again until later in their lives, and they see it and they're like, oh. But imagine that, but instead of like 10 years later, it's only about like 2 years later. You know what I mean? Like, it was a moment for me. Okay, it was a moment for me. And every time I walked past that hallway, I'd have to do this. I would just be scurrying along like this because I just didn't want to see it. But I really did stay away from Studio Ghibli for a while until like the 7th grade. But first, let's talk about Traumatized Children. As stated earlier, what made these scenes scary for me was the overwhelming assault on the senses. The panic Chihiro was in watching her parents, who had been ignoring her up until this point, helplessly turn into pigs due to their hubris. Scary thing for a child to go through on its own, but even the scenes before this with the music is eerie, the woodwind notes being long and drawn out, and the eerie scenery is uncanny and very liminal. Like there should be people in this world and there just isn't. Obviously, they are trying to set up a scene here. They are trying to give you that uneasy feeling. And Miyazaki knows what the fuck he's doing in this scene What are we doing? Miyazaki knows what the fuck he is doing in this scene, let me tell you. He is giving you that liminal space. Like, there's supposed to be people here. And where are all the people? They're all gone. That, like, oh God. You know, liminal spaces have been a really hot topic lately, especially in horror. And just, because it does something. It does something guttural. There are supposed to be people there, and they're just not people there. As a kid, like, not understanding that is what it's supposed to be, like, it scared me so much. I think also being around the same age as Chihiro and not having your parents listen to you when something is clearly wrong is also a very scary thing. And then the actual scene itself with her parents eating like pigs, and the fact that they turn into pigs and that they won't listen to her, and she's like screaming and yelling, and she's like, stop, like, it's scary. It's a traumatic thing. You're watching a child go through a traumatic thing. The music is picking up the sounds, the like chewing and eating sounds. Like, it was so unnerving for me to watch, like, as a little kid. And even rewatching the movie for this video, like, it was so unnerving to like sit there and like watch it happen. Like, again, like the sounds in your ear, it's the sound design in this is so good. This movie is so good. But like, that scene was like, I could just think of the sounds, like the mouse sound, like that is how they were eating. And it's really disturbing. It's really fucking disturbing. And Chihiro is helpless in this scene. And that's kind of how I felt. Like, I'm already in an unknown place. I'm in somebody's basement of like a parent family I don't know, with kids who I don't really know. Like, we just hang out outside. So already there's that anxiety and fear. Well, not fear, because I was there. I was like, oh yes, let me take me to your basement. That's so dumb. I was really a little kid. I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely, I'll go into your basement and watch anime with you. Oh my God. But there's that, and then on top of that, I'm watching like this really low-key disturbing scene of these parents literally turning into pigs, and the little girl who like is just helpless to stop it, and then all of these fucking like demons start to pop up and shit. Like, yeah, no wonder I was scared and I ran off. That shit is scary. It's traumatizing. I think also as a kid, this goes for like any type of movie, but as a kid, I think you're much more able to suspend your disbelief, and you have a lot of a harder time, like, you know, discerning reality from fiction. And, you know, like Santa Claus and like horror movies. When you watch a horror movie about Freddy Krueger, like, you really think Freddy Krueger's gonna come for you, and you don't want to sleep now because you think Freddy Krueger's gonna come for you in your dreams. Like, we as children have like a hard time discerning that from reality, because we don't know enough about the world to really put it into our heads that this is a movie. It is not real. And of course, some kids grow up differently, but for the most part, like, you as a kid watching a movie were really like, oh, that's real. Like, why would it not be real? Why would, you know, the movie lie to me? We don't understand or grasp the concept of movies. And so when you see something scary as a kid, you go, like, that sticks with you. That stuff sticks with you and causes you to have nightmares because you think that it's real. You think that Freddy Krueger is coming from you. You think that your parents are going to turn into pigs, you know? And that's what makes it relatable. This fantastical journey that Chihiro goes on, even though it's fantasy and fantastical, her emotions are real. And because as a child, I can relate to those emotions of being helplessness. No one's listening to you. Everything seems so big and grand and scary. Her situation becomes relatable despite the fantastical circumstances. What you doing? Silver, do you like Studio Ghibli films? Tell them how you really feel. Go ahead. Thank you for your input, sir. And I just felt really hopeless in that situation. Well, not completely hopeless. Like I said, I ran out and then ran home and cried. So, you know, I could get myself out of that situation despite Chihiro not being able to. And that is how it stayed until middle school. Now, while I do believe that those scenes were intentionally made to be creepy, I don't think the original intent was to be downright horrifying like it was to me as a kid. So in middle school, when all of my friends were raving about it, FOMO had set in, and I decided, you know what, I'll rewatch it again. And that is when I was met with No Face. Like, the man lured and ate a frog in cold blood. You wanna tell me that's not scary, even to a middle schooler? Now, I looked it up, and apparently No Face doesn't really mean anything special. It's not from Japanese folklore. It was made especially for the movie by Miyazaki, but it does represent hollow people and people with no self of their own. No Face sees Chihiro's honesty and becomes enamored with her, kind of like obsessed with her in a way. he ends up swallowing all of the bad qualities and personalities of the people around him in attempts to, you know, befriend Chihiro and get closer to her. And of course, she's having none of it because those are not qualities that you want in a friend. And so she finally stands up to him and stands up and faces her fears. And that is like a very pivotal turning point in the movie. No Face was yet again another terrifying barrier for childhood me to get through in this movie. However, middle school me, again facing FOMO, steeled her fucking nerves and watched it anyway. And I'm so glad I watched through the whole thing, as the movie's tone is completely different from the first part to the second part of the movie. At this point, Chihiro has steeled her nerves and has decided to save Haku by going to visit Zeniba. At this point, she's willing to do whatever it takes to save Haku. It's at this point, and I've been feeling this way, especially lately, which is crazy, you know, media, life imitates art or whatever. At this point, a lot of people say in this movie, like, at this point, her love over trumps her paralyzing fear to do anything. Like, and I really do feel that way in life. I think there comes a moment when you have paralyzing fear and paralyzing anxiety, like I do, where you don't even want to try anything because you're scared of failing or you're scared of whatever because of anxiety. There comes a point where an emotion is just so strong that it overtakes that fear. And when I was a kid, for this movie, it was FOMO. I was scared of, you know, fear of missing out. And that fear kind of over trumped the other fear of watching this movie. You know, the fear that I was missing out, not like to fit in with my friends, but to miss out on something that was truly great and beautiful, which is what this movie is. Yeah, you thought I didn't like this movie? You thought I didn't like this movie? Ha! I got you to click on this. Of course I love this movie. Of course I do. Like, after watching that movie, I obviously became a Ghibli fanatic. I watched My Neighbor Totoro, also very traumatizing. I watched a bunch of other movies, and I still haven't seen a lot of Studio Ghibli movies to this day, but like, obviously I love them. And I don't think I need to tell you, but this was directly paralleling like what I was going through at the time, being a little kid and being scared and then overcoming my fears at the end to watch this movie. Chihiro was thrusted into a world full of change, and this parallels her own life where she was thrust into a world that it was constantly changing because assumedly her dad got a new job somewhere and they had to move out of the world that she knew into a world she didn't want to be in, frankly. And of course, especially for a little kid, that's scary. But she is able to steel her nerves in the spirit world. The power of love overcomes her fear, and she is able to talk to Zeniba, who ends up being like really nice, like a really nice grandma, and she comes out of the spirit world completely different and ready to take on anything. Just a shame she had to get traumatized to do it. Now, of course, this has all been kind of one big joke. Not really. I really did go through all that shit I was talking about in my childhood, and it's one of my unique moments I have with this movie. But I love that happened to me. You know what I mean? So I want to ask the question, why? Why do we love this movie? Why is it probably, other than Totoro, the most recognizable Studio Ghibli movie like ever? Why do we associate this movie with being, you know, beautiful and cozy when there are some scary ass shit that happens in this movie? Number one, the season of fall and winter are often seasons associated with rebirth and reflection. This movie being a coming of age movie about a little kid deciding to basically take on this whole spirit world is like, you know, it's just one of change and rebirth, and Chihiro goes through that. It's a coming of age film, and she goes through that. So associating that with fall is, you know, something we all do. And number two, and more importantly, the second half of this movie. Well, yes, the first half of this movie is intended to be kind of scary and overwhelming and an assault on the senses. Because of the development that Chihiro goes through, the second half is really where all of the whimsicalness of everything really shines through. Like the baby getting turned into a little mouse, and you get to meet Zeniba, and she is living basically this like witchy fantasy life in her little cottage, and she's so, you know, heartwarming and nice, and she wants you to call her grandma. Like it's supposed to be heartwarming and like cute and whatever, and all of the like side characters end up becoming like really nice to Chihiro, and even Yubaba doesn't seem like a big scary like person anymore, especially after Zeniba like kind of like talks her down as well. And Granny really takes Chihiro in and like tells her everything that she needs is basically inside of her. And that like, that scene, I cried during that scene. And then Haku went to I cried during that scene. It's so sweet. These are what create the moments of nostalgia that we associate this movie with. Well, at least for me. And of course the music, like I said, the music design in this is peak. As soon as I heard that like main theme start to play at the beginning of the movie, I actually started to tear up, because like now I have such like distinct memories with this movie as a kid, and it makes me feel something like every single time. And that constant use of that throughout the movie, it becomes like the theme song, but like in a way that's like, we're like, it's no longer scary, it's more triumphant. And I think in the beginning, when you first hear that song, the main theme, you kind of hear it as this kind of eerie, melancholy thing. But in the end, the song is something that you have grown fond of and you have grown accustomed to. It is a memory that you will keep with you for the rest of your life. And it really just reminded me of how far I have come, and in my life how much I've changed and grown from that little kid in the basement. So yeah, needless to say, sorry, plot twist, I'm not scared of this movie anymore. It is a staple in my life. It is one of my favorite. It's not my favorite Studio Ghibli film, that is Ponyo, but it is like a staple. It's one of my favorites, and like I said, every time I watch it now, I cry, because I just, the amount, it's beautiful. Like as a kid, I never understood like, why do people see these movies as like beautiful, and now I see it. The fact that I have now this memory to take with me for the rest of my life is like, it's so crazy that I have a personal story tied to this movie that kind of parallels Chihiro's a little bit in a way. That is what's really special to me, and that creates this memory of nostalgia for me every time I watch that movie. It reminds me of being a little kid in that basement and being scared, and now I am 22 and I love this movie, and I love Studio Ghibli. I love the aesthetic. I'd love to go to like see this Ghibli like symphony one day, and like go to the Studio Ghibli museum in Japan and stuff like that. Like I have a lot of merch of Studio Ghibli. Like it all comes together. Oh my god, I should have worn my little soot earrings. I have these little soot earrings. Oh my god, I should have wore them. Oh well. Anyway, the point is, this is a major part of my life now, and I have that special story to tell now, which is really like important to me. So thank you so much for watching all the way to the end, especially if you did. You are a real one. We are real ones in these streets. Coming up, I don't know, I have Kipo, I have TMNT, we have Sonic, we have OKKO. We going out this year with a bang. I hope you have a wonderful holiday. If you celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I hope you have a wonderful future rest of the year. And we're going out with a bang this year. We're going out with a bang. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much for watching. All of my social medias are in the description if you want to come talk to me about anything. And if you have any suggestions for videos that you would like me to make, I'm going to be branching out a little bit past just like review videos. I love these types of videos where I get to talk about my own stories as it relates to media. I want to get back into talking about fandom stuff as well. So if you have any of that stuff, it doesn't even have to be a fandom that I'm in. I am deep in the trenches of the Genshin Impact fandom, and I know nothing about that game. Nothing. I might do another Genshin Impact video maybe in the new year, but like let me know down in the comments. You can reach me on all my social medias. I have a vlog channel too if you want to look at that, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.